What is going on, Duke fans? Adam Palmer here with another episode of the Duke Basketball Corner podcast. And while this isn't an official kind of instant reaction pod, I did want to get something in, maybe even to kind of warm up a bit for when I do instant reaction pods during the NCAA tournament. But this is a quick morning after Duke has beaten North Carolina in the semifinals of the ACC tournament. Crazy game, as Coach K said, brought it back to kind of old ACC memories of just classic games. Yeah, so now in full games against North Carolina, Zion is 1-0, because I'm not sure I want to count. It was either 34 or 36 seconds he played in the first game, and obviously not the second. He played, and he made a big impact. I'll mention Syracuse just for occasionally, but mostly this is going to be North Carolina. Duke will face Florida State tonight. I believe that is 8:30 Eastern Standard on ESPN, so it should be a good one. I don't think many were expecting Florida State to beat Virginia. Virginia, they've now lost 2 out of 3 on whatever that stadium is named in Charlotte, because obviously they lost to UMBC, which I'm sure no one is forgetting. So they went down to Florida State. Duke will face Florida State. Throughout the season, I've said Florida State, they are the team that I wouldn't be surprised if they win the national championship, or I would say I would give an equal chance of them winning the national championship and getting blown out in the first round. Florida State is the most untrustworthy team imaginable, but they are also super talented. They have experience. They have what it takes. So I'm not sure if they have a definitive go-to player. They have certain guys, but you know what? Let's just concentrate on North Carolina right now. Amazing, because, I mean, the thing I was saying about Zion coming back, what he'll give is energy. I mean, throughout the whole season, that's the thing I've said is by far the most important aspect of Duke. Energy. Non-stop energy. So, without Zion, Duke would kind of fade in certain aspects of games, especially late. With Zion, no matter what, I mean, even early in the game, Duke was down 33-20. Guys on the court, they were sweating buckets. Before Zion came back, I'd be like, man, I don't know. I mean, if they're already kind of clinging to their legs right now, it might not be pretty. But you know what? Now, I believe Duke, they are a team that they could keep pushing pace. Even against a team like North Carolina, where you could argue that plays right into their hands. Duke's not going to wear down. That's the thing he brings. Duke is not going to wear down. More often than not, they will be the team that is more physical and more aggressive in the second half. And it all starts with Zion Williamson. And, I mean, he was against Syracuse first game back. Nobody quite knew what to expect, just getting his legs under him. He was saying he could have gone a couple days earlier, so for anyone who might have thought Duke rushed him back, that is definitely not the case. He wanted to get in earlier, and also Nike, there was a story where they had, when the shoes failed, where he got injured the first time when his foot blasted through the shoe, they had like their top people, whatever that means, come to Duke, and then there was a specially designed new shoe in China, came back a week later with a new shoe. So, yeah, the impact of Zion right there. I think like Kyle Guy was like wearing like old beaten up shoes. I shouldn't laugh at that. I mean, it's not funny, but it just shows the impact of Zion, how he can impact just the whole industry. All right, so amazing. I mean, he was 13 of 13 against Syracuse. Immediately came out, monster dunks, crazy steals. It's just a highlight reel. But at the same time, Duke wasn't getting back in transition. Their half-court offense looked atrocious. I mean, the zone, it's the same zone that RJ. He's 30 points, 14 of 20 against his last time with he almost had a triple-double. He was just amazing. And Duke looked like they had no idea what to do against the zone, like they'd never seen a zone. So it wasn't the zone, I think, that was affecting. It was just getting that chemistry back. And if anyone remembers when Kyrie Irving came back in the NCAA tournament, Nolan Smith, who'd been the guy, who'd been the alpha, he just didn't look the same in terms of his confidence, and or I'm not even sure, I wouldn't say it's confidence. It's just knowing your role and being comfortable in your role. He was the guy. Everything ran through him. And then Kyrie, even when Kyrie deferred to him, because I forget who they played the first game. The second was like Michigan. I think Kyrie only went like one. Either he missed every shot. No, he made the game winner. The last shot he made was the game winner. He was like 0 for like 8 or something. He made a bunch of free throws. But even that, they were kind of figuring it out. But at the same time, it just didn't look right. Nolan Smith was never quite the same in the NCAA tournament. And yeah, they only had a couple games to get that rhythm back together. And yeah, you could nitpick how the RJ Zion situation might be different in terms of their skill sets. It's still the same mental idea about really kind of collaborating your skill sets and just knowing who's going to get the ball in what situation, just having a feel for each other, that chemistry, it's so vital. It's not just talent, it's chemistry. And so it's really nice now to have 3 full ACC tournament games to regather that chemistry. So there's not going to be the questions between them, which may not even be conscious. But it did affect things a bit against Syracuse. So Zion, he started out 13 of 13 against Syracuse, and everything looked great, but Duke was still, they weren't getting back in transition, and they were turning it over. A lot of unforced turnovers, and it was just ugly. It was sloppy. Jordan Goldwire provided a big spark that game. And he was huge, just in terms of getting back in transition. Also, Duke settled down. They stopped turning it over as much. And then they hit their free throws down the stretch, most of all Trey. Trey did a great job. Zion, that was actually the one thing he didn't do well against Syracuse. I think he was 2 for 9. I was like joking, bench him, start Buckmeyer. But everything else, Zion was amazing. Tons of highlights. And Duke was able to kind of pull away at the end against North Carolina. North Carolina, it's the same. I mean, North Carolina is 3 things which you know they're going to bring. They're going to bring their talent or their talent, ability, and just effort level in transition, offensive rebounding, and 3-point shooting. I've said this is the best 3-point shooting team for Carolina under Roy I've seen. The only argument could be 2005, but this team is lethal from 3. Lethal. And I think the most underrated factor of Duke this season is their 3-point defense. Duke's 3-point defense, it's almost completely wiped out their own horrific 3-point offense. Duke's 3-point defense, they are just amazing. Team, like, I think Gonzaga is really the only team to shoot well against them, and that was when Duke was still kind of figuring things out. And, I mean, since the ACC started, it's been just fantastic. I mean, you have Virginia Tech, Virginia, and North Carolina, 3 supreme 3-point shooting teams. North Carolina, besides a 5 for 6 point for like 6 minutes in the second half of the second matchup, Duke really shut them down. I mean, yesterday they started out 2 for 4, Cam Johnson mostly. I think they started out 3 for 7 total. And you know what they finished? They finished, let's see here, they finished 4 for 27. You have North Carolina, one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. And let's see, they held North Carolina to their 2 out of the 3 worst shooting 3-point performances of the season. February 20th and March 15th. They were 10% February 20th and 14.8% yesterday. And the other one, I mean, besides that 5 for 6 point, they were 7 for 25. Even with the 5 for 6, I mean, it was about 38%, which is good, but not what North Carolina. I mean, they're one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. So I think Duke did a great job all 3 matchups and throughout the season with their 3-point defense. So if you can take away one of the 3 aspects that North Carolina does so well, that's huge. So then it came down to transition defense. And Duke just simply wasn't getting back. I mean, same thing with Syracuse until they kind of improved in the second half. And again, a lot of that had to do with Jordan Goldwire. Same thing occurred versus North Carolina, where Goldwire made a huge difference. And I haven't actually rewatched the game. I'm not sure if you can just put it on Cam Reddish. But for some reason, Duke was better when Goldwire subbed in for him, and Duke was able to play 2 point guards up top, really, at least on defense, putting pressure on the ball and creating havoc. And yeah, Cam did come back, and he played with Goldwire as well, so it's not like Goldwire just replaced him. But Goldwire, he also played great defense strictly on Cam Johnson. So you got North Carolina's Cam Johnson came in right away. He had 14 points. It was like 5 of his first 6 shooting a couple minutes in, and his stat line really never changed from there on out. Credit to Jordan Goldwire. I know this game might be the one which gets him that credit, for at least nationally. But it's been a long time coming. I saw it. First of all, he went up against, what was his name? Colin Sexton in high school. He's used to guarding some top names. So, and earlier this season, I said if he can even just make defenses respect him a little bit, he's going to make an impact. A huge impact, and he will be a difference maker on at least one game. That's what I said, probably more. And it's been more. It started, most people don't remember Pitt. That was, I believe, without Trey. Duke was really lacking energy. I think that was right after the Virginia win. And coming off the 3-game kind of just emotional swing of FSU, Virginia, it was Virginia, FSU, and Syracuse. Syracuse was the low point of that. But either way, their energy was lacking. And Jordan Goldwire was a huge spark. Then Louisville, that's when Duke used the zone press. He was a big part of that. Him and Trey, everyone knows Trey's defense at this point. Goldwire, he's just creating havoc. And, even though he hasn't been able to really showcase much offense this season, his defense is enough. It's like a Wojo type of impact. That's seriously, last year I wrote, it's going to be so much fun watching him develop over 4 years, just to see if he can get to that kind of annoyance level of Wojo, and I mean annoyance in a very complimentary way. Nobody wanted to go up against Wojo, and Wojo's offense was pretty much non-existent. Besides, he could make free throws and an occasional 3-pointer, but that's how important he was. That he rarely came off the court at that time, and was instrumental in Duke's turnaround, because they were pretty low during the start of his Duke career in the mid-'90s. By the end of his career, they were right back on top. So Goldwire against Louisville, he was so instrumental. He created the first 2 turnovers, and I think Louisville turned it over something like 8 straight possessions. He had the first 2 of those. And then Syracuse yesterday, or I guess that would be the day before, Syracuse in the quarters. And then yesterday, it wasn't just creating havoc, it was locking down Cam Johnson and getting back in transition. That's something where it's funny. I was saying, the thing about role players is they're going to get back. Because K might be a little easier, not necessarily, but might be easier on his stars. But at least in terms of that aspect, transition, because they're going to get playing time. You can't, bench them all the time if they don't get back. But these role players, if they don't get back in transition, the most basic effort-based thing in basketball, K might rip their heart out on national TV right out of their chest, and I don't think that would be a comfortable situation. So Goldwire is not going to be jogging back or hesitating. He is really just darting back there. And it's not just getting back, it's making sure you cover the lanes. You see what's going on. and you're in the right position. And North Carolina, they still got transition points just because they're so good. But man, it was cut down. And you already got Trey on Kobe White, forcing Kobe White into all kinds of difficult shots. You have Zion, Luke May. He saw Jack White the first 2 games. And Jack White, a total effort player. Love everything he provides. But there's a different situation right there when you're guarded by Zion instead of Jack White. And Jack White didn't get minutes. Kay said that it was just basically the height. He was too small to go against North Carolina. Although it does kind of make me wonder, like, how was Jack White big enough last time? And obviously Duke didn't have Zion, but Big Vrank got minutes, and Big Vrank, Antonio Vrankovic, the Vrankening, thank you very much. He was awesome. And Kay really showed, he did a great thing by starting him in the second half because they earned it. They earned it. It wasn't some sort of kind of do you a favor type of move. And Vrank didn't play much in the second half, but his minutes in the first half, vital. And I think he said his favorite play was like blocking Luke May, which is funny. But yeah, I mean, when he came in, you were just hoping. I mean, Duke doesn't have Bolden. Javin got in foul trouble. Javin's been fantastic, but his foul rate got a little on the negative end again yesterday. So, I mean, when he stays on the court, he's been great except for some inability to finish right at the rim at times. But his defense has been fantastic. I mean, that's like blasting Goldwire. Goldwire's not hitting shots. I mean, they provide great defense and energy, leadership. That's what they're there for. You just have to accept they're not going to be able to. When they can when they can score, it's basically a bonus. So you have Rank. The interesting thing about Rank is how much pick and roll Duke ran with everyone, especially Trey. And I'm just like, where has this been every year? I mean, they run pick and roll to get in the past to get their wings shots, a lot of shots, but like with these point guards, they're not getting much, and I mean, like, it's just wild to me. From Derek Thornton to Frank Jackson to Trevon Duval to Trey Jones. I mean, that's the thing with Trey. I've been begging for pick and roll. It's not just pick and roll. It's just high screens, side screens to create action and to let the point guard showcase their skill set, especially point guards that don't shoot well from outside. And all those I mentioned, besides Frank Jackson, they don't shoot well from outside. And if you're just expecting your point guard to be basically a catch and shoot spot up shooter, and they're not a good spot up shooter, then what are they doing on offense? Like, it's almost, you kind of feel bad for them, because like, what are they supposed to do? They have to have some sort of way to play to their skill set. So it was nice seeing Vrank and Trey work some pick and roll action there. And also, I mean, there was one play where Vrank and Goldwire ran a give and go, and it was just the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. I mean, this is a game against North Carolina in the ACC Tournament semifinal, second, and I think late in the first half. And you're seeing a well-executed give and go. Goldwire to Vrank, back to Goldwire, down the lane for the layup, and it's just like, what is even going on? And you have 3 freshmen who are going to be, at the very worst, top 10 picks, and you have Trey, who's a likely first-round pick, and you have Vrank and Goldwire making plays. It's I mean, that's the beautiful thing about college basketball. And it's possible to appreciate both the one-and-dones and the role players, the 4 years, because I think too many are extreme either side. And it's awesome when those kind of role players get to be kind of alpha role players, get to really be involved. And Goldwire, he made, I think RJ got stripped late in the game, and he made a bucket that was just huge. I mean, Duke really needed points. Then North Carolina was on the run. It was just huge. But bottom line, Zion was the difference. Zion, he scored on a second chance at the end. If I didn't say, he had 31 points, 13 of 19 shooting. 3 of 3 from the line, so improve that free throw percentage. Although you'd like to see him get to the line more. And it was just, it was just a really great game. Duke, they started out sloppy with turnovers again, and Cam, I said it's like a teenager that kind of abuses their charge card privileges, which is a horrible joke, sorry. But Cam, he's got to find a way to adapt to the way the refs are calling these charges, because they're not calling them incorrectly. He's just colliding right into defenders. Like, there's no other way to see it. I know there's the whole flopping thing. It's blatant. Like, you can say flop if you want, but by this time now he has a reputation. So he's got to adjust. He's got to find a way to adjust. I mean, there's no other way around it. And he struggled yesterday, and so hopefully he can give Duke minutes. I've said if he's on during the tournament, Duke wins the national championship. He is the X factor. There's no doubt about that. Zero doubt. So Duke was they're sloppy early on, just like Cuse. Then they got together. I think starting with Trey turned it over with 8:37 left in the first half. No turnovers the rest of that half, and or maybe one, and then the first 5 minutes. So one out of those 14 minutes, and then they just kept turning it over again. But right when they had North Carolina where they wanted them, ready to kind of stomp on that throat, they let them back in, and that's the thing with North Carolina. They're so damn talented that Duke to give them more chances. They went on a run, and there's two potential three-point plays. Cam Johnson finished one, and then Luke May had an opportunity to finish one, and he wasn't able to. And when he missed that, Zion came right back, scored and one, fouled out Garrison Brooks. Garrison Brooks, probably the most underrated player on North Carolina right now. I think Kenny Williams is getting more and more, at least known nationally, for his defense. Garrison Brooks is a hell of a player. I mean, what he does on offensive rebounding and his defense, I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for Carolina. And with him gone, it was just, you knew Zion, just give the ball to Zion. Just give it to him. So, let's see here. Luke May, when he scored, it made it 71-67 with 2:48 left. Free throw opportunity to make it 72-67. When he wasn't able to convert, from that point on, it was 7-2 Duke. That was it. And the only North Carolina scorer was when, Kobe White beat Trey off the dribble. RJ came over to help, and Kobe White actually lost the ball. Kind of slipped out of his hands, somehow went right to Nasir Little, who dunked. That's just blatant luck. And I'm not saying UNC didn't have opportunities. Cam Johnson's three-pointer rimmed out. That would have given them the lead. That was their second to last possession. Then the last possession, Kobe White missed a close three. I don't know. It wasn't too close. It missed. That's the bottom line. So it went down to the wire. That's what you're looking for with Duke UNC. And obviously the big negative is again close game, late game, free throw shooting. RJ Barrett missed two when they were up one right before that last Kobe White free throw. First one was short, second one was long, and I've gone over it. The way Duke, when they have Zion, has been a great second half team. It's not the legs. It's not that they're wearing down. I saw nothing yesterday that made it look like they're wearing down. Same deal, Florida State with the late missed free throw. Same thing with UVA, the first one of the second half free throws. With the Cuse first matchup when Zion missed a potential game winner with 15 seconds left. Well, Wake Forest, maybe that's a possibility with RJ's. He missed his last five, but I still don't think so. It's just this is a team where they're going to shoot more free throws in the second half because they are a more aggressive team. And when you shoot more free throws, you're going to miss more. So, while it was great that Trey made his last 8 against Syracuse, you also have to just look at who's shooting them. So, RJ and Zion are generally going to miss more. And, yeah, so if they're shooting at the end, you just have to kind of cross your fingers and hope. I mean, that's pretty much all you can say about that. So, I mean, Zion, you can see the effect he's having on defense with the steals. I mean, it was just ridiculous. The steal percentage for Duke is just flying back up. And he creates havoc everywhere. The points in the paint, you could argue that was a difference yesterday. Something like 50-38. I mean, this is a team, North Carolina. They excel at points in the paint, and I mean, Zion's a difference maker. Zion is an absolute difference maker. So I don't want to go too far into this because you know what? It's just that's what happened last game. It is game by game now, so there's no point in just going too far in depth. I will say that there have been whispers about Marquise Bolden. He could be back for the NCAA tournament. I mean, there's nothing clear about that. There's nothing clear. There's nothing official. And I did see Ben Swain. He was like tweeting. He was talking to Buckmeyer. Man, I love how like it's so random because I did the same thing on Twitter with Nick Paliuka, where I would just like tweet about him all the time. I adopted him as my official walk-on. I would just be like hashtag it Pags for Player of the Year. Even though the G is silent when you say his last name, and it was just kind of a joke because I do serious analysis, and it's nice to just kind of joke around with that other stuff. And I did the same thing with Buckmeyer, and Buckmeyer's taken on a life of its own, and it's crazy because I mean Zion, he wouldn't even do the locker room interview yesterday until he kind of like dragged Buckmeyer in there with him, and everyone's like looking around. It's like Buckmeyer's just sitting there with Zion. Nobody knows what's going on, and if you've been following closely, I mean, this is what they do. This is kind of their partnership, and Buckmeyer said he wants to go to the podium after games. He hasn't requested it, and he hasn't been asked to come, but he's like, I'd like to. And man, get that man to the podium. That's what I'm saying. Get Buck in here. So hopefully he gets his one shining moment, or you know what? His 6 shining moments in the NCAA tournament at the podium, where everyone's just looking at him, wondering like what in the world he's doing there. And I will know he is there, deserving, because Mike Buckmeyer is the GOAT. All right, so is there anything? Okay, I didn't even finish what I was at. Well, Ben Swain, he was talking to Buckmeyer, and I think Buckmeyer said that he used the word when Bolden comes back instead of if. So, I mean, that's, and I've heard kind of whispers other than that, but that's the only thing that's been made public, I believe, unless I missed something else. So, I don't like to get too into, hey, what if, blah, 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 that kind of stuff, but it would be nice to have Bolden back. I mean, Rank was tremendous yesterday. Absolutely fantastic. But Duke, they miss Bolden. That's why sometimes just going by the stats, you gotta really watch. You gotta see what's going on around and how much Bolden can impact a game. So hopefully he can be back, and hopefully he's back. If he's back, he can come back the first weekend so he can kind of get his legs under him. Because while Zion's a machine, he's an alien. I think most people are going to need a few games to get their legs under him. Let's see here. I think that's about it. That is about it. I mentioned Jack White, who's just, Kay said he was too small against Carolina, so he's not in Kay's doghouse or anything. This is a team where there's more players who Kay can use in different types of situations than we've seen in a while. It's always around this point. We're wondering, like, that rotation, why is it so small? They need a deeper bench. And now there's a lot of guys he can go to. I mean, when you have someone like Vrankovic, who was asked after the game if he thought he would play after his senior night, he answered honestly no. and then he played a vital role yesterday. That's just a really cool kind of thing to watch. So, and I didn't mention Trey a lot. Trey played amazing defense on Kobe White. Kobe White's a stud. There were two plays he made yesterday where it's just like jaw-dropping. So, great win by Duke. Great way to finish it out. Zion, difference maker at the end. Difference maker at the beginning. He's a difference maker. He is a freak of nature, but do not just talk about his athletic ability when you're talking with him. He is a smart player. Great player, smart kid. And the last thing I'll say is it was interesting to kind of hear him after the game when he was asked about kind of how he's adjusted to being quote-unquote the man. He was talking about how he didn't really experience that until he came to Duke, and he just can't go anywhere without being mobbed, without people wanting his time to talk to him. Anywhere he goes, he's never going to be able to simply just walk down the street again. And he said his parents prepared him for this. He knew what was coming. I don't know, call me sensitive. In a way, I feel bad for him, but in a way, I mean, it's great. But it's an adjustment. It's an adjustment, and he's a star. And this is what comes with being a star. So, yeah, I mean, it's good that he at least gets used to it a bit now, because it's going to blow up even more once he gets to the NBA. So it's great to see him back. Fantastic, epic Duke, North Carolina. Came down to the wire, came down to Zion, made a game winner. He actually said the play was designed for RJ. RJ actually... He broke it off. He saw Zion had position on the block, gave it to him, gave it to the big guy, let the big dog eat, and yeah, that was it. So RJ down the stretch making smart plays, improved so much as a decision maker this season. Doesn't always have to just score to impact the game. I mean, it's great to see the big dogs, the big alphas back together again. Duke FSU. Tonight at 8:30, ACC Championship. Duke, I think many are talking about the seeds. With Virginia losing, and Gonzaga lost in their conference tournament. I don't really follow all the bracketology stuff. If Duke wins, I assume they get a 1 seed. Even if they don't, I don't know how much they take it into consideration about Zion being out for pretty much 3 of Duke's losses, if you count the UNC one. But, Duke's definitely 1 seed worthy with him. So however that goes, it goes. But it's good to see the gang back together again, even if it's minus Bolden, who's hopefully back later. But enjoy the win. Epic Duke UNC, Florida State tonight. Subscribe, rate, review, do what you do with all that stuff. Again, I will say real quick, if you'd like to kind of come on, co-host in a fun way during the postseason, the offer's out there, get in touch. But I'm not going to harp on that because, I've tried this before. Nobody really responds, so I'm not going to waste time saying that. It's just once in a while I like to put it out there because that will kind of create a good back and forth. But I will be back after Florida State, whatever happens. Then I will be back again with the NCAA tournament preview, maybe some interviews, and it's on from there. So, appreciate you listening to the Duke Basketball Corner podcast. I am Adam Comero, and I will be talking to you guys soon.